Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Earrings Off. We want to invite you to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. You can find us on Facebook at Earrings Off Podcast and on Instagram at The Earrings Off Podcast.
Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa.
Well, hello, partner.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Okay, we have been talking a bit lately about movement and being intentional with how we move our bodies to make sure we maintain our mobility. And so we're going to talk a little bit about maintaining mobility. And we often say, Teresa, as we age, but this should be something we're being mindful about always. Because, when you look at little kids and they're so flexible and they can bend over without even thinking about it and raise their legs in the air, why is it that we lose that? And we're not as flexible as we were when we were children, but there should still be a range of motion that we continue to have as we age. And the reality is, when we aren't moving and aren't being mindful about being physical, we start to lose that. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, how to make sure we maintain our mobility. And it's not just a phrase we're saying, it is so important to our everyday lives and how we're able to function, to remain independent, to take care of ourselves. It impacts our quality of life. And so that's what we're all about here on Earrings Off.
I know. I absolutely agree. And I know we must sound like a broken record because as you said, this is something we've talked about before, and we will continue to talk about it because what we see is that people are literally falling and breaking their hips and losing their independence. And, and because of their lack of mobility, it is such, and I'm not talking about just old people. I'm talking about young people as well. So it's very crucially, it's so important, Lou.
Well, yeah. And Teresa, to your comment about we probably sound like a broken record. And you know what? We may, but we're going to continue to do that because what continues to stick in my mind is how we were impacted during that pandemic.
Oh, my goodness.
It was our community that suffered the greatest number of losses, which was a direct correlation to our physical health. So if we sound like a broken record, so be it. This is serious stuff, and a lot of which we have control over.
Absolutely.
I often think about, I've heard Oprah say, even with all of her money, no one can keep her healthy. No one can exercise for her. The reality is we have to take ownership of this. And so that's just where we are.
What you just shared was amazing, Lou. Let me tell you why. I had a family member in the hospital and was privy to, a conversation with a nurse. The thing she said was lifestyle changes. All of the problems that this family member is encountering that ended this family member in the hospital could have been fixed with simple, and I know it for some people that's a hard word, and especially for this individual family member, It's hard. Simple is really not simple to some
Right,
folks,
right.
but lifestyle changes. Eating right and exercising
Yeah,
might have prevented the situation that occurred. Thank
yeah.
God that the message was received this time, and hopefully there will be some changes that
Mm,
will make a difference,
yeah, yeah. I
you know?
tell you. Yeah, yeah.
And it's
I
so
hear you.
important. I mean, lifestyle changes are just that. There's no drugs involved in that, right? Like
Yeah.
lifestyle changes, get up and move. But I want to go back. I digress. I want to go back and speak about mobility again. So, you know how we've laughed about, clicking on something in our Instagram feeds and then for you TikTok. But and and ended up having those things showing up daily,
Mm-hmm.
hourly in your
Yeah.
feed, and it's like feeds, and it's like, what in the world? Why am I getting all this? Well, that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I clicked on something about um I clicked on mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I am receiving all of these people doing exercises to keep themselves mobile. And
Wow.
there was this one, it reminded me of something you and I talked
Mm-hmm.
about years ago. I don't know if you will remember
Mm-hmm.
about how this one lady removed her furniture and the family sits on bean bags and on the
Mm-hmm.
floor to maintain their mobility. Because if we sit in our easy chairs, is that what they're called? The
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
where you
yeah. The
can recline
recliners.
back.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we sit in. By the way, I just bought a new one. My
Yeah.
first one, my
Yeah.
first one, and I love it. But if we sit in those daily, all day, what is that doing to us, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you have to change your position. You have to sit on the floor. I have that exercise ball that I often sit
Mm-hmm.
on. You have to be intentional, like you said, in your movement, in your day-to-day movement. You can't sit in the same chair and expect, you know, anything different than loss
Right.
of mobility.
Right.
You have to, you have to change things up, right?
Right. 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 You absolutely do.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we talk about maintaining mobility. And of course, what we've referenced is what we've referenced many times. You have to do some type of physical activity. Just do incorporate some type of exercise and strength training, flexibility, some type of aerobic activities to help maintain your muscle mass, joint flexibility, and cardiovascular health. And now that I'm older, I often think about when I was younger, I would maybe see an older person on TV or in the movies or something, and they would be doing these movements, which they resembled Tai Chi,
Oh
slow
yeah.
movements or some yoga poses. And I really used to think when I would see that, it's like, what's that supposed to be doing? Because at that point, I was into the step classes and the cardio classes. And yeah, there was a little bit of judgment in me. I was looking at it like, what is that doing? I'd go by the park and see this group of people, older people doing that. And I really was like, I honestly thought, well, that's not getting your heart rate up. But now that I have reached that point, I now realize they were so smart.
Yeah.
Brilliant, really.
Oh,
Because now what I've saw them doing is now what I do every morning. I have some set things, group of exercises that when I roll out of bed, I start my stretches for the day. And it's not a whole lot, but I'm trying to make sure that I'm remaining flexible. And I incorporate that. I do it in the morning, I do it in the evening, I do it at least twice a day.
that's right.
Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do, like I said, is what those people years ago when I sort of thought they weren't doing anything, but actually turned out to be very smart. They incorporated daily movement into their everyday lives. And that's
Right.
essential. It doesn't always have to be something complicated. And Teresa and I, we try hard to make that point here on Earrings Off. Don't get overwhelmed by it, but figure out something that's going to allow you to stretch and to move, to get your body so that you don't lose your range of motion.
Yeah. Lou, I was out there with those old people that you
Yeah,
that you were judging.
I was judging. I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth.
Tai
I
Chi.
did.
I mean, I took so many Tai Chi classes.
Really?
Yeah, and I even that's one of the things I'll do. I have this guy on YouTube that does Tai Chi. I will take a class every now and then when I remember with him on YouTube. But I love Tai Chi, Lou. It's so fluid. And you're
Yeah.
right. It's so good. Other cultures, they got it. They
They
get it.
absolutely, you're right.
They
You're right.
they
You're
do.
right.
They do
Yeah,
get it. And the one thing I want to say about what you just said and not getting overwhelmed, the point I want to make is it's not ever too late to get started.
that's right.
So even if you're not doing anything right now, like Lou said, ease into some
That's all.
level of movement. So maybe you used to sit on your easy chair, and I don't think that's what they call Lou, but okay.
They're not,
It,
is it not recliner?
I think
I
it
know.
is. I think it's a
Yeah,
recline. I think it's called
yeah.
recliner. I don't even know what it's called. The only reason I got it is because I felt like I had reached a certain age and it was
Oh,
time for
really?
me to have
Well, I
that
have one,
chair.
and that's what I consider my reading chair.
Yeah.
On a Sunday afternoon, I get my papers. And yes, folks, on Sunday, I like a paper copy of the papers. It's just something I got two that I do. And I sit in that chair and I just take my time with them. So, yeah.
I love
Mhm.
that, Lou. So I might start reading in my chair, but I kind of use it for sleeping. But I digress. I digress. So what I want to say is, people know that you sit in the same position when you watch a
Yeah,
TV show.
yeah,
You can get up and sit at the foot of that chair. Just slide down out of the chair, ease yourself onto the floor. And if you can, crisscross applesauce. Simple.
hmm
If
hmm
you can't, don't worry. Just
hmm
try to get to that position, right? And then ease yourself back up into the chair, right? Just do that on
yeah,
commercial breaks, or just if you're watching a movie, pause the movie if you don't want to miss something, but do that. Change your
yeah,
position, change your sitting position, and don't sit for hours at a time. Just
yeah,
don't do that. It's
yeah,
not good for us. And I know I try really hard during the day when I'm working. It's hard. I have to remind myself to get up and move. I will work for hours and
right,
realize I've been holding, I need to go to the bathroom. I've been holding
right,
it. Like,
right,
get up
right,
and move. You have to be mindful and you have to be intentional
right.
because I want to touch on that independence thing again, Boo. Who wants, who doesn't want their independence?
Yes,
You know,
yeah. And
it's,
you want it for yourself. And Teresa, the reality is you also want it for your loved ones. I say to my family members, the way that I'm trying to take care of you is by taking care of me so that there's one less, you don't have to worry about that. I don't want that on you if I can avoid it. So my love for you, my way that I show my love for you is that I'm trying to take care of myself.
well, I say I'm a little different, Lou,
Mhm.
and folks don't judge me on this one. I'm taking care of myself because I don't want elder abuse in my life because I see my family not taking care.
Oh my goodness.
I
That,
feel like
God.
I feel like, like if I can't take care of myself, I'm just gonna be left hanging out there.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I love you, baby. I know you're gonna take care of me. I'm
Well,
just
I tell
kidding.
you that.
Not
Well,
really, Lou. I'm
But
worried.
Teresa, I'm telling. Well, okay, since we're having an honest moment, I do all of that because I'm a little iffy on that itch. Yeah, so it's best
Yes,
to be able to take
take
care
care
of
of yourself.
yourself if
Yes,
you can do that. So that those kinds of things, and but a lot of times when Teresa and I talk about not being overwhelmed, and we go back to this a lot. Sometimes in our community, we we tend to think, well, I can't do that, or you see something and feel like that's too much for me to do. Don't just figure out what you can do, whatever your starting point is. Just start. And of course, as always, check in with your doctor and see where you might be able to start. But
absolutely.
there's definitely a starting point for us all.
There's
There is something we can be doing, some step we can take that will help us on our journey to better health, whatever that may be. There is something we don't just get to say, oh, I can't do it. And that's the end of it. If we're living and breathing, we have an opportunity to just try to do better. That's it.
So my mom she goes to this senior citizen gym, for
Hmm.
lack of
Hmm.
a better
Hmm.
word. I mean,
Hmm.
they offer line dances, they offer chair
Hmm.
exercises, chair yoga, blah blah blah, go on and on and on. My mom has told me stories about classes where she's in the chair. My mom is in her 80s, and there's a woman there that is in her late 90s that is not in a chair, and
Hmm.
she's on her feet,
Hmm.
and she's doing the exercise, and she doesn't miss a class. She doesn't drive herself there, but she is there every day, and she's doing her exercise. She's line dancing, she's doing yoga, and she's happy. So the
Hmm.
other thing that I want to talk about is that whole cognitive function. Like
Oh,
there's a link. There's a link between
absolutely.
physical activity and improved cognitive function.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the lower that just by moving, and we're just talking basic. I mean, I know we've used exercise in many of the examples, but
Yeah.
what we're basically talking about with this mobility thing is basic movement, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But there is a there's studies that show that being mobile improves your cognitive function. There's some links there
Yeah.
that studies have shown,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
helps to lower the risk of the cognitive decline and dementia.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It all comes back to it, though, right, Lou? Eating
Mm.
right and exercising. It
Yeah.
all comes back,
It
no matter
does.
what we talk about, like
It
in
does.
terms of our physical body, our this house that we live in. There's just no way around it.
There's no way. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's so important.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing that we wouldn't think about in terms of helping with mobility is hydration. Like we
Yeah.
might not think about the drinking liquids,
I
water
know because
will
that's not
help.
something I think about, but you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. It because it helps to keep those joints lubricated, and it helps with the overall bodily functions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
And
important too.
and folks, particularly in the hotter months, but even at all times, just check yourself because you may think that you're hydrated and you're drinking enough water, and you actually may not be. So sometimes just be very intentional about paying attention to, am I hydrating? What have I been drinking today? Because lots of times, just like Teresa, when you referenced earlier about, you need to get up and move, and then you look up and the day's gone. I do that sometimes with hydration. It's like I get up, I drink some water, and then it's the evening and I've realized, wait a minute, I didn't drink enough today. And that can have a cumulative effect on your body. So make sure you're being mindful. You don't have to be obsessive, but pay attention to, you know what? Am I drinking enough? And don't go down and follow the bad habits that I have because I like drinks, like sweet drinks, and that's not what we should be focusing on. I'm talking about actually true hydration without the sugar added. Just drink some water
Right.
and throughout the day and be mindful about that as part of your overall health protocol.
Another thing that we don't think of when it comes to mobility is footwear, the proper footwear.
Yeah, yeah,
So wearing supportive, comfortable shoes can help prevent falls and provide the stability needed for that safe movement that you're going to be getting yourself into. But
yeah.
yeah, make sure you have on the proper footwear. Although, interestingly enough, that's another one of the links that I clicked on recently.
Hmm.
And this woman is saying how the use of shoes causes so many issues. Like we should never close our toes in. Like
Really?
we should like she's a proponent of being barefoot or wearing the barefoot shoes,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You've had
Hmm.
those before. I
Yeah,
think I've seen,
yeah,
yeah.
I did. Yeah,
Yeah. I've never owned a pair, but she says there that your toes should splay. You should splay.
yeah,
That's an exercise you should do, like splaying your toes and rolling your feet, and
yeah.
like your feet should be loose. And like getting the reason I clicked on the link is because the topic was something about hips, something
Hmm.
about hips. I can't remember
Hmm.
what the
Hmm.
heading was, but anyway, shoes cause our bodies to get out of alignment,
Well, it's
is what she
yeah,
said. And she said, especially heels.
right.
Like if you're wearing heels, she's like, if you're gonna wear shoes, they should be flat and they should be flexible.
Hmm.
So they should not have a hard bottom and they should roll with your foot.
And it's important that you figure out that you go to a professional to help you figure out what maybe works best for you. Because Teresa, you're right. When the barefoot shoes came out, I read the article, and back then I used to run a little bit. And I read all the information and the research. And so, of course, I immediately bought a pair, and they were quite expensive. And that's what I used. I used them for a while, and then I ran into problems and I started experiencing some pain in my feet. Couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally went to the runner store to figure out okay what was going on, and they showed me no, these shoes aren't for you. You actually have to have more support than this. And sure enough, I followed. This was years ago. What they were saying, the doctor confirmed it, and no more problems. So be mindful that what may work for Teresa may not work for me, and what may
Great
work for
point.
me may not work for Teresa. So experiment a bit and don't get sucked into the latest trend or the newest craze. Figure out what works for your body because I injured myself because I read about what was the new thing coming out. They were lightweight. They were the best shoes for me to exercise in. Turns out, not so much for Lou.
Right.
So be mindful of that because it is very important what we put on our feet. They carry us throughout our lives. We have to take care of them and make good choices for ourselves. Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, we talk about that a lot, Lou. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
You have to listen to your body.
Yeah.
What is good for the goose may not be good for the gander.
Right. Right.
We just have to know that. But
Right.
moving on
Yeah.
to my next point, if you're not being mobile, one option for you to get started is physical therapy. Not because something is wrong. Well, if you're having mobility issues, then something is wrong. But a physical therapist can
That's
actually
excellent.
help you um,
Yeah.
determine and they can tailor exercises for you, to help you improve your movement. So
Yes,
consider not just because you've pulled a, their physical therapists are great and they're not just there because you have a sprain.
that's
And
right.
they you can use them to help you determine what type of exercise might be best for your body.
Yeah, that's very good stuff because many times we don't go unless there's a problem. And sometimes we have this mindset that, I don't want to spend the money. I don't want to make waste money. If waste money, if it's about your health and your well-being, listen, it's not a waste of money. Put that bag, don't buy that. Stop by whatever concessions you need to make so that you can take care of your health. I won't even go into the changes that I have made in my lifestyle because I need to try to maintain my health.
Right.
So if it's a class, a health class, or something I need to do, I weigh that against, well, you know what? I can do without that. Maybe, I can make some other adjustments because it's just that important to me. And folks, when your mind shifts like that, you would be amazed at what you can do without and the modifications you can make in your own lifestyle because you make your health a priority. I mean, it's just reality. Yeah,
Maintaining mobility as we age involves a holistic approach that includes physical activity, like we said, proper nutrition, health care, and an environment that supports safe and active living. We didn't
right,
talk about that though, the environment.
right.
Make sure um, that if you need to make any adjustments in your living space to reduce the opportunity for falls or trips, that you do.
Yeah, yeah,
If
yeah,
you need to install some grab bars or good
hmm,
lighting and
yeah,
remove trip hazards, do that.
yeah,
Whatever it takes. But for you to
yeah,
be mobile, if those are the reasons why you're not mobile, fix those. Fix
right.
those issues. Yeah.
And if your doctor has determined that you should be using a cane or walker or some other type of device, do that so that that you're less likely to fall and injure yourself. And so many times there's a stigma attached to the use of different devices, but at the end of the day, you want to stay safe. And believe it or not, that's part of you maintaining your independence and mobility because you're still moving. You may be moving with the assistance of an aid, but you are still moving. And that's what you want. And so we just need to be mindful of that. And as Teresa said, make modifications. Just take a minute to look around your home, wherever you are. If there are things on the floor, or even if your home is decorated in such a way that it's more likely there are trip hazards, you need to remove those. Take a critical eye to your home to see, you know what? Have I created a safe environment, one that encourages me to be mobile, to move around? Have I placed things right at my fingertips so I don't even have to get up from this chair? Start thinking about that.
Right.
Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's the best thing for us. And I'm definitely preaching to the choir, preaching to myself on this one because I have a bad habit of looking for the closest parking space. And Teresa, you don't do that. And I notice you when we travel separately, you always park a ways away. And even though I know that's what I should be doing, I don't do it. So, ouch, that hurt me a little bit to say I'm working on that because I
Yeah.
can be I can be lazy with that, even though I know that's not the best thing for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another thing, Lou, when I work from home, I'm in the basement of my house and there is a bathroom here on this floor. I intentionally go up two
Hmm,
levels
hmm,
to my bedroom to
Hmm.
use the bathroom.
Yeah,
That's how that's what I do to get myself some extra steps in
to be
rather than just
intentional.
walking right
Yeah,
outside my office and
yeah.
taking the first unless it's an
Okay,
emergency.
too much information, going too far as usual. Okay. So, yeah, but yeah, just being
Yeah.
mindful of
Yeah.
that. Yeah. All right. Well, folks, listen. Teresa said it earlier. We might sound like a broken record, but if we do, it's because we care. And what we're sharing with you on this podcast is not something we've just read in a book. A lot of stuff we have read and researched, particularly Teresa. But I'm telling you, this is from life experiences. This is what we know. You know how they say, this is what I know for sure? Let me tell you, this is what we know for sure. This is what we absolutely know for sure. Stay mobile, stay flexible, get moving. That's it for us today here on Earrings Off. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Take good care.